Welcome to CreepyTalks, where hidden fears come alive through chilling horror tales. Dare to listen as every story pulls you deeper into the darkness. Story 1. Sounds in the House. The house on Alder Street had been empty for 11 years. At least that's what everyone in the town believed. No one ever stayed long enough to prove otherwise. Ethan Carter didn't believe in ghost stories. That's exactly why he bought the house. It was cheap, suspiciously cheap. A massive 2-story Victorian structure in a quiet suburban neighborhood somewhere in the northern part of the country. The real estate agent barely made eye contact when handing over the keys. "Just don't stay in the house after midnight," she muttered. Ethan laughed. "Yeah, sure. Haunted house rules." She didn't laugh back. The first night was normal, almost too normal. Ethan unpacked his things, set up his laptop in the living room, and ordered takeout. The house creaked occasionally. Old wood, temperature shifts, nothing unusual. By 11:47 p.m., he was sitting on the couch scrolling through his phone. Then it happened. A sound, soft, faint, from upstairs. Tap. Ethan paused. He looked toward the staircase. Silence. He shook his head. Probably pipes. Then tap, tap, tap. 3 times. Slow, deliberate. Not pipes, not random. It sounded like footsteps. Ethan stood up. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. Of course not. He grabbed his phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked toward the stairs. Each step creaked loudly under his weight. The house suddenly felt heavier, like the air had thickened. Halfway up the stairs. Tap, this time right above him. Ethan froze. There was only one hallway upstairs, and he hadn't unpacked anything there yet. No one should be there. He reached the top. The hallway stretched out in darkness. 4 doors, all closed. The tapping stopped. "Okay," Ethan whispered, trying to stay rational. Old house, wood expanding. That's all. He walked toward the first door and pushed it open. Empty bedroom. Dust. Nothing else. Second door. Bathroom. Clean. Still. Third door. Storage room. Boxes left behind by previous owners. Everything normal. Then the fourth door, at the very end of the hallway. Something felt wrong about it. Ethan couldn't explain why. The air near that door was colder. His breath didn't fog, but he felt the temperature drop. He reached for the handle. It was already slightly open. Tap. The sound came from inside. Ethan's heart skipped. He slowly pushed the door open. The flashlight beam shook slightly in his hand. Inside was another bedroom, but unlike the others, this one wasn't empty. There was a chair in the center of the room, facing the corner, and something was sitting on it. No, not sitting, just a shape. Dark, too dark, like a shadow that didn't belong. Ethan narrowed his eyes. "Hello?" The shape didn't move. "Hey, this isn't funny," he said, stepping inside. The moment he crossed the threshold, tap, right behind him. Ethan spun around. The hallway was empty, completely empty. He quickly turned back toward the chair. The shape was gone. The chair was now empty, completely. Ethan's breathing grew heavier. "Nope," he whispered. "Nope, nope, nope." He backed out of the room, closed the door, and walked quickly down the hallway. Halfway to the stairs. Tap, tap, tap. This time louder, closer, right behind him. Ethan didn't turn around. He ran down the stairs, into the living room, heart pounding like it was about to explode. He grabbed his keys. "I'm not dealing with this," he muttered. As he reached for the front door, tap, right behind him again. Ethan froze, slowly, slowly. He turned his head. There was nothing there, but the sound. It wasn't on the floor. It wasn't footsteps. It was coming from inside the walls. Tap, 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 moving, crawling, following him from the walls. Ethan stumbled back. No, no, that's not possible. The tapping moved faster, from the left wall to the ceiling, then directly above him. Bang! Something slammed hard above. Dust fell from the ceiling. Then silence. Complete silence. Ethan stood there shaking. Seconds passed. Maybe minutes. Nothing happened. Finally, he let out a nervous laugh. Okay, it's just the house settling. That's all. He forced himself to calm down, locked the front door, turned off the lights, and went to sleep. At exactly 3:03 a.m., Ethan woke up, not because of a sound, but because someone whispered directly into his ear, "Don't look at the corner." Ethan's eyes snapped open. His entire body froze. He was lying on his side, facing the corner of his bedroom, and slowly, very slowly, something in that corner began to move. Story 2. Sounds in the house. Ethan didn't move. He couldn't. His entire body felt locked, like something invisible was pressing him into the mattress. The whisper still echoed in his ear. Don't look at the corner. But he already was. The darkness in the corner wasn't normal. It wasn't just shadow. It was deeper, thicker, like the light itself was being swallowed. Ethan tried to blink, but his eyes stayed wide open. And then the shadow shifted. At first it was subtle, a slight ripple like something breathing. Then it stretched, upward, slowly rising along the wall, becoming taller, longer, wrong. Ethan's heartbeat pounded violently in his chest. This isn't real. This isn't real. The shadow began to take shape. A head, tilted at an unnatural angle. Arms, too long, dragging down the wall like melted wax. And then, two hollow spaces where eyes should be, staring directly at him. Ethan tried to scream. Nothing came out. His throat wouldn't work. The thing in the corner twitched. Once, twice. Then its head snapped slightly to the side, as if listening. Tap, from inside the wall, right behind Ethan's bed. The thing froze. Its head turned toward the sound. Then slowly, it began crawling. Not walking, not stepping. Crawling, down the wall, its limbs bending in ways they shouldn't. Each movement slow, deliberate, accompanied by a faint crack, like bones shifting under pressure. Ethan felt tears forming in his eyes. Please, stop. The thing reached the floor, then began moving toward the bed, dragging itself forward. No sound of footsteps, only that faint, sickening scraping. Tap, tap, tap. The sound inside the wall grew louder, closer, faster. The creature suddenly stopped. Its head snapped toward Ethan again. And then it smiled. Not a human smile. Too wide, too stretched, like something trying to imitate emotion it didn't understand. Ethan finally forced his voice out. What? What do you want? The creature didn't answer. Instead, it lifted one arm, slowly, and pointed, behind Ethan. Tap, right next to his ear, inside the wall. Something was there, something moving, something trying to get out. Ethan's breathing became frantic. No, 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 no. The tapping turned into scratching, then pounding, violent, desperate. The creature's smile widened further, and then it spoke, but its mouth didn't move. The voice came from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the ceiling, from inside Ethan's head. You heard us. Ethan's vision blurred. Us? Crack. A thin line split open on the wall beside his bed. Plaster broke, dust fell, and something black seeped through, like liquid shadow. Ethan screamed. This time the sound came out, loud, raw, terrified. He tried to move. And suddenly, He could. Ethan rolled off the bed and hit the floor hard. He didn't look back, didn't think. He ran, straight out of the bedroom. The hallway was darker than before, too dark, like the lights didn't exist anymore. Behind him, scrape, something dragging across the floor, following him, fast. Ethan ran toward the stairs, but stopped, dead, at the top of the staircase. Someone was standing there. It looked like him. Same height, same face, same clothes, but its head was slightly tilted, and its eyes completely black. Ethan stumbled backward. No, that's not. The thing smiled, perfectly matching his own face. Then it spoke, in Ethan's voice. You shouldn't have listened. Behind Ethan, the crawling thing let out a low, broken sound, almost like laughter. Tap, tap, tap. Now coming from everywhere. Walls, floor, ceiling, inside the house, inside his head. The version of Ethan at the stairs took one slow step forward. Now it knows you're awake. Ethan shook his head violently. This isn't real. The thing stopped. Its smile faded, and then it whispered, then wake up. Everything went silent, completely silent. Ethan blinked, and suddenly, he was back in his bed. Morning light filled the room. Birds chirped outside. Everything looked normal. Ethan sat up, gasping. Sweat drenched his body. It was a dream. He laughed nervously. Just a nightmare. Then he noticed something. On the wall, right beside his bed, 3 long cracks, fresh, deep, and from inside them came a faint sound. Tap. Ethan froze. Slowly, very slowly. He turned his head toward the corner of the room. The shadow was already there, waiting. And this time, it wasn't alone. Story 3. Sounds in the house. Ethan didn't breathe. He couldn't, because in the corner of the room, there wasn't just one shadow anymore. There were many. They didn't stand separately. They overlapped, twisted together, like a mass of bodies trying to exist in the same space. Too many limbs, too many heads, too many hollow, empty eyes staring directly at him. Tap, tap, tap. The sound was louder now, no longer faint, no longer distant. It was inside the room, inside the walls, inside everything. Ethan slowly backed away from the bed. His legs trembled so badly he nearly collapsed. What do you want from me? He whispered. The shadows didn't move, but the sound changed. Tap, tap, tap. It formed a pattern, a rhythm, like knocking, like something trying to communicate. Then all at once, every shadow in the corner tilted their heads, perfectly synchronized, and spoke. Stay! Ethan shook his head violently. No, I'm leaving. I'm leaving right now. He ran, out of the bedroom, down the hallway, toward the stairs. But the house was different. The hallway was longer, much longer, far longer than it should have been. The stairs weren't where they were before. The doors, gone. Ethan stopped, panicking. This isn't possible. This isn't possible. Behind him, tap. He turned, and his blood ran cold. The hallway behind him wasn't empty anymore. Something was crawling toward him, fast. It was one of them, but now fully visible. Its body was twisted, stretched unnaturally thin. Its arms dragged across the floor, bending backward. Its face looked like Ethan's, but broken, distorted. Its jaw hung too low, its eyes completely black, and it was smiling. Ethan screamed and ran. He didn't care where, just forward, just away. The hallway seemed endless. Every step echoed too loudly, every breath too sharp. Then suddenly, he reached the end. A door, the front door. Ethan almost cried. He rushed toward it, grabbed the handle and yanked it open. Outside, fresh air, sunlight, freedom. He stumbled out onto the street, collapsing onto the pavement, laughing, crying, alive. I made it! I made it! A car passed by. A woman walking her dog glanced at him strangely. Everything looked normal, perfectly normal. Ethan slowly stood up, turned back toward the house, and froze. The house wasn't there. In its place was an empty lot, overgrown grass, rotting fence, like no house had ever existed there. Ethan's smile faded. No, no, that's not possible. Then, from behind him, a familiar voice whispered, "You didn't leave." Ethan turned slowly. The street was gone. The woman, the car, the sky, everything was gone. He was back inside, standing in the hallway, the long, endless hallway. And this time, he wasn't alone. All of them were there, standing, crawling, watching, surrounding him from every side. Walls, ceiling, floor, hundreds of hollow black eyes, all locked onto him. Tap, tap, tap. Deafening now, like something hammering inside his skull. Ethan dropped to his knees, crying, screaming, "Let me out!" The shadows began to move closer, slowly, closing in. And then, one step forward, it looked exactly like him. Perfect, unbroken, smiling calmly. It leaned down, close to his ear, and whispered, "Now you live here too." Ethan's scream echoed, but only for a moment, because then it stopped. Everything stopped. Silence. Days later, a new family moved into a house on Alder Street. The father laughed at the rumors. The mother ignored the warnings. The child played quietly in the living room until, at exactly 3:03 a.m., the child sat up in bed, listening to a faint sound coming from inside the walls. Tap, tap, tap. And from the corner of the room, a shadow slowly began to grow.